Hey everybody, this is John Gallup. Welcome to the Keeper of the Gains podcast. My host today is Dr. Rogers. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing very well, thank you.
Dr. Rogers, for those that don't know, is the professor of exercise physiology at Wichita State University and the dean of exercise science?
I'm the graduate coordinator for exercise
Graduate
science.
coordinator, gotcha. So he's going to answer some of our questions today, tell us what it's like to be a professor at the university and things that he likes about it. And let's start with where are you from?
Hey, I'm from upstate New York, the Finger Lakes area. So I grew up there and eventually went to college in Northeast Ohio.
What does it feel like to be landlocked?
Well, really, upstate New York, other than the lakes, pretty similar to the rest of the Midwest.
Yeah, is it really?
Yeah, a lot of hills and beautiful country.
Yeah.
Cold in the winter.
And what made you decide to go to the college of choice for you?
Well, I was interested in sports medicine. That's what I wanted to pursue. I really wanted to be an athletic trainer.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of combine my interest in health as well as athletics. And I picked a school that was 6 hours away from home, which was far enough to stay away from my parents. So I knew they were coming if they were coming.
Yeah.
And but close enough where I could get home if I needed to.
Yeah, for the holidays and all that stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's good. And how long was schooling for you then?
So 4 years for my undergrad, and during those 4 years, I decided I didn't want to be an athletic trainer. Eventually discovered exercise physiology, and after that went on to graduate school for another 5 years for my master and PhD in exercise physiology.
It's a lot of schooling.
When you look back at it, it is, but when you're in the middle of it, it's not so bad.
I feel like that'd be the reverse for me in the middle of it. Then again, I'm just about to graduate, and it feels like it's been an eternity.
Yeah.
And that's just the first 4.
Yeah, you just think about how much you enjoy it, though, and what it will eventually lead to.
Oh, I've had a blast.
Good.
Yeah. So what made you decide not to be an athletic trainer?
Well, I have learned that everybody is basically built for something that they find they have passion about. And I learned early on that I did not have passion for athletic training.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the health aspects of it. I didn't like working with athletes.
Really?
Athletes tend to take too much for granted, expect too much, and not be very appreciative. At least the ones I was working with. And when you're a freshman in college, working with a team, you're really relegated to water boy. That's about all you get to do.
Yeah.
And did not really enjoy that too much and didn't have the patience to stick around.
Yeah.
So I started to explore some other career paths, including physical education, even thought about physical therapy. And after my internship at a PT clinic, decided that wasn't for me either.
Can you elaborate on the PT clinic?
The one I was working at dealt with 2 different types of populations. It was workman's comp patients and severely physically disabled children. And one group wasn't going to get better, the children.
Yeah.
And the other group didn't want to get better.
Yeah.
Because they'd have to go back to work. So that wasn't really fulfilling, and I learned that the physical therapist spends a lot of time in their office doing paperwork rather than being on the floor working with the patients, which is what the PTAs do. But at the same time, I was taking an exercise physiology class and just absolutely loved the content. Didn't really know I could make a career of that at the time, but eventually learned about grad school and went off in that direction.
Yeah. And what was your favorite part about grad school? Because you said it was a year and a half in grad school, and then
I was in grad school for 5 years. I originally went for my master degree and really enjoyed the research aspects of the program, where I was volunteering as a participant and then helping the doctoral students with their projects.
Yeah.
And my advisor talked to me and said, "You seem to really have a good knack for this and an interest in it, and you might want to consider going on for your PhD." And I really did not know what I wanted to do with my career at that time, but I just really enjoyed learning. I figured if I stay in school, something's going to happen. So went on for the PhD, and that's where I really developed my passion for research and specifically for working with older adults.
And can you tell us about some of the stuff you've done working with older adult patients?
Yeah, well, when I was in grad school, my dissertation was on heavy resistance training in older women. Mm-hmm. So I'd have them do leg press, knee extension, knee flexion, 10 10 reps, 3 sets, 3 days a week for 8 weeks on that, pushing them to full repetition failure, and then making them do 3 or 4 partial repetitions afterwards, and making sure I was completely exhausting those fast twitch muscle fibers. So what I was interested in was hypertrophy. Is will these older women who are in their late 60s and up to their late 70s, will the muscle grow? And this was back in the mid-90s, and there hadn't been a whole lot of work done on that topic. And sure enough, we managed to witness increased muscle size in these women after just 8 weeks, and changing of the contractile proteins within the muscle as well, because we were doing muscle biopsies.
Oh, you're doing muscle biopsies.
Muscle biopsies, taking little chunks of muscle out and seeing what's going on with the myosin heavy chains within those. So that's where I started to work with older adults, and those women were very appreciative, unlike the athletes I was working with 6 years prior to that. And then once my career furthered along, I was still interested in the weight training aspects of it and the resistance training, but not so much the heavy resistance. It was more about functional training and what can you do to improve just daily living.
Right.
Make your quality of life better. And then I got into balance training and fall prevention. So still what I do is resistance training using primarily elastic resistance bands and balance training to prevent falls.
Yeah. And then you ended up taking that course that you kind of developed with the resistance bands, and you started traveling, right?
Yeah, so I've got this program called Standing Strong. It's all about fall prevention and being strong.
Yeah.
So taking that program, packaged it together, and a lot of the traveling I get to do around the world is presenting that program to either other exercise scientists, but primarily to physical therapists.
I see. So you didn't end up in the PT field after all, just as a leader.
Yeah, it's kind of ironic. And most of the people that I work with around the world are physical therapists as well. So, I do it more on the prehab side. I'm trying to prevent the fall rather than the rehab side of trying to fix somebody after they have fallen.
Yeah, prehab's probably the best option, right? Especially when they're getting older. You don't have too many chances to mess that one up.
Right. It's just a matter of convincing people that they actually need to engage in some type of physical activity to prevent something, because like most people, you don't worry about it until after something's happened. You don't worry about the heart attack until after you've had the heart attack.
Right. You're right about, too, the thankfulness of the older population versus sometimes maybe the collegiate level population, because when we did our fitness practicum here, we worked with older adults with the band program. I don't know if that was your program. I'm guessing it might have been. Of it. Yeah. And I remember they were always just so excited to see us there, and they were very thankful for what you're doing for them.
Absolutely. If you have the ability to just talk and discuss and, very importantly, listen to other people, older adults can be the ideal population to work with, because really it doesn't take much to improve their fitness significantly. For example, we might be able to double an older adult's strength over a period of months, but college level person, we're not going to be able to double their bench press.
Yeah, it'd be nice to put 5-10% on. Would be great, wouldn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I don't think we could double your bench press from probably about 375 now.
400 plus.
Yeah, we couldn't get you up to 800.
Yeah. I want to go back real quick to your graduate program,
Sure.
because that was a big step for you as far as, I'm sure the financial side of things too, making that jump from undergraduate to, do I really want to do this for another, year and a half, and then that led into 5 years after, what kind of was the, how'd you get over that hump of that fear saying, wow, this is going to cost a lot, how'd you plan all that out?
Well, first of all, my undergraduate college did not have any graduate programs. I was never exposed to graduate school. I really didn't know that graduate school existed. My professors never talked about it. It was something I sort of discovered on my own. And oddly, the way that I discovered the program, I was reading Muscle and Fitness. I was a bodybuilder at the time, and I was reading Muscle and Fitness, and they had an article in there about this professor at Kent State who had gotten an award from the U.S. Olympic Training Committee, and it was for his work in protein metabolism. And I was interested in that very same topic because I was a vegetarian bodybuilder. and saw that he was at Kent State University. So did a little research on him, and that was only about an hour away from where I was going to school. I went up to visit him, and in terms of the financial part, that was pretty much relieved when they offered me a graduate assistantship to teach classes, and school was free at that point.
I see. And is that what kind of led you to come back to teaching as a professor later? Did you just really enjoy that experience, or how did that end up?
To be honest, the classes that they offered me during my first year of grad school was billiards.
Interesting.
So I taught 3 classes of billiards each semester, and the thing on teaching billiards, you don't have to be a great billiards player.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to identify the best billiards player in the class to demonstrate all of the shots and run a lot of tournaments, a lot of 9-ball and 8-ball tournaments. So, I did enjoy that, and then progressed during my second year into jogging class, which was fairly easy. Just point in a direction and tell them to go that way for a period of time and turn around and come back. Weight training, and then I got into some more lecture-based stuff like lifetime fitness, exercise, and weight control, which was more towards the real exercise physiology stuff.
Yeah.
And then eventually exercise physiology laboratory sessions and exercise phys class. But I really enjoyed that. But again, here I was in grad school and really wasn't considering what I was going to do when I, quote-unquote, grew up. Did not think about it. I'm just thinking about, all right, what do I have to do today? What do I have to do this week? What do I have to do to get through the semester? And once I got done, still didn't have a plan.
And it's okay. But it all turned out for you.
I couldn't stay in school much longer, so pretty much terminal degree is the end of your academic career.
Yeah.
In terms of taking classes. So my wife, I had just gotten married, and she was down in Texas, so I figured I should get closer to her than Ohio, and applied to the National Research Council for a postdoctoral position at an Air Force base. Got that position, and worked with Air Force pilots for a couple of years.
Okay. And like getting ready for the heavy G-forces and stuff like that?
Exactly. Yeah. Getting ready for those, for their high G turns that they do when they get blood fluctuations and blood pulls down to their feet and they have the risk of blacking out while they're flying their multi-million-dollar high-performance aircraft.
That was a step up from billiards.
Yeah, it was a little different there. So we'd spin pilots in a human centrifuge, trying to prevent G-induced loss of consciousness.
Yeah.
But while that was fun, it was really the thinking part of it was how can exercise and nutrition improve their ability to withstand G-forces? What types of strength training programs? Would aerobic training have an effect? What can you do with creatine phosphate?
Yeah.
So it's things along that line. But, the good thing about working in that environment is there was no teaching, and I realized that I missed that. And that's what prompted me to get back into the university environment, so I could combine the teaching and the research.
I see. I want to get back to what you did with the pilots to make them less, susceptible to loss of consciousness with the G-forces. I think we should probably define what exercise physiology is for everybody, because there's going to be a lot of people that don't know what it is. Like, what would you define exercise phys as?
Physiology is really a branch of biology. It deals with the functionings of organs and organ systems within the body.
I see.
And specifically with exercise, it's how the body responds short term as well as how it adapts long term to exercise, and how it affects areas such as muscle, the cardiovascular, respiratory, endocrine systems within the body.
Right. At a much more deep molecular level, correct? Would that be sufficient to say?
Yeah. It can go fairly deep into the biochemistry and the genetic areas.
Right.
When you get into basic exercise physiology research, and a lot of us are also very interested in the applied aspects. How can you take that information and apply it to humans and improve their quality of life?
Right. So you have this 9 years of exercise physiology research and studying. You go to that Air Force base. What did you do, or what information did you use to prevent that loss of consciousness? What did you find most effective?
A lot of it was my cardiovascular background.
Yeah.
Because really it's a blood flow problem, and trying to prevent blood from pooling in the legs and not returning back up to the head.
Mm.
So having an understanding of that,